All right. Can everybody hear me now? All right. Now I'm going to put this. All right.
Fifty-eight. Wow. Okay. Let's have one more answer, and then let's go right into this one.
55.
55. Okay,
Yeah.
so pretty
We're talking
close.
about the
Pretty
regions.
close.
How many countries?
I actually thought there were 56 countries, but upon further study, there's actually 54 countries. But
Who got that?
Somebody got that, yeah?
but there's a but. But there are 56 sovereign states. Now I was interested in what they meant by
So there are 54 countries, but 56 sovereign states. Who knows what a sovereignty is? Nobody? Okay. A sovereignty is somebody who is independent but dependent on the mother of their country. Like the Bahamas is a sovereign country, but we are still in the Commonwealth of England. So we still rely on England for help if we needed help with. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry. It's like the Bahamas is it's a commonwealth, but it is still part. It's a sovereign country, but it's still part of the Commonwealth of England, of the UK, because we are still part of the family of the United Kingdom, but we are independent. That means we have our own money, we have our own rules, we have all of the things that it's like the best way I could explain it is it's like when a child grows up, they are now their own sovereignty, but they're still part of the family of their parents. You understand? All right. That's what that is.
sovereign state. Apparently, as long as you have a certain border, one government, and that's it, the people that you're called a country. So I'm not sure where the other two, why they aren't incorporated into countries. But you know what? When you do the rest of the honor, you'll find out. So we're doing African law, and as you can see, it's the nice Zulu shield with the is it three sticks? One is a spear, the other is a knob carry. Not sure what the other one is, but we'll find out for you.
So how many countries are there in the in Africa? In the continent of Africa, yes. 54. But how many sovereign states are there? 30, yes, there are two sovereign states. So it's 56 countries in Africa. Okay? All right. We are now going to have a presentation by three people who are African or descendants of Africans. Okay? All right. Yes. Yes.
Good afternoon, guys. All right. My name is Miss One Yay, and I am from Liberia. Has anyone heard of the name Liberia before, or no words? Now you three, because or four. Anyone else? Go ahead. Go ahead. Have you heard of Liberia? Yeah. What do you know about Liberia? You forgot. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to talk to you guys about Liberia and its uniqueness. Okay. Um, did you guys know that Africa is actually the second largest continent in the world? Yeah. Do you guys know how many continents are there? Yeah. How many? Seven continents. That's right. That's right. Asia is the largest, and then Africa is the second largest, which means that, um, like Sister Corin said earlier, Africa has 54 countries. Okay. That's double the size of where we're at right now. That's double the size of North America. Okay. And do you guys know some of the countries in North America? Yeah. What are some of the countries? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So those are states. Canada. There you go. United States. That's right. So United States, Canada, Mexico. Those are all countries in North America. I mean, in North America. Now, one of those countries that we have in Africa is Liberia, like I said, and Liberia is actually located in West. So the west of Africa, that's where Liberia is located. Liberia is actually the oldest, so it's one of the smallest, but it's actually the oldest republic, meaning it's the first country in Africa to gain its independence. Okay. So Liberia was never colonized. Do you guys know what that means? Mm-hmm. Okay. So it means that it was never owned by someone else. It had always been a free country, right? And but prior, now Liberia was founded by free slaves. All of you guys are in school, so I'm sure you guys know about the free slaves and slavery, and and those things that happened many years ago here in our country, right? So Liberia was founded by free slaves, and prior to that, there were actually indigenous people in Liberia prior to the slave going there. So the slave just helped develop the area, right? But there were indigenous people there, and those indigenous people were actually grouped by tribes. Okay, there are 16 tribes in Liberia. My parents are actually from two different tribes. So we have Mr. Zulu back there and Mrs. Zulu as well. And they're actually part of the tribe. They're part of the indigenous descendants of Liberia. His tribe is called the Mono tribe, and then her tribe is called the Peli or Kipeli, which is the largest tribe in Liberia. Um, it is very diverse. So Liberians look very different. We don't all look the same because of it being a melting pot. Okay. Now, Liberia is very similar to the US in some ways because it was pretty much developed by free slaves. Okay. So the free slaves took a lot of the things that they learned here back to Liberia, including the flag. So the Liberian flag, I'm gonna look it up really quick and I'll show you guys what it looks like. The Liberian flag actually looks like it's very similar to the flag we have here in the US. except it has one star. Okay. And that star represents it being just one state. Even though there's different tribes, it's considered one state. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. Can you guys see that? Mm, You guys see that? Okay, so that's the flag of Liberia. It's very similar to the US flag. Even the Pledge of Allegiance is the exact same, except the name of the country changes. Okay, and that's only because the free slave took a lot of things that they knew, because this is all they knew, right? So they took a lot of those things back to Liberia, and we have the Liberia have their own money, right? It's called the Liberian dollars. Um, I wish I had one to show you guys, but maybe next time I'll bring one for you guys to see. The food is actually a mixture. So we have they have like the plantains, and like we had at potluck, we have cassava leaf, like Sister Betty brought as well. So it's a mixture of different things: Caribbean food, West African food, even food here in the U.S., like food from the South, like collard greens. Liberian cook that as well. Like Creole food. So Liberia is they have a little bit of everything. So if you were to visit Liberia, you would see a lot of things that are very similar to what we have here. Okay. Same thing with education. They start from kindergarten and then go all the way to 12th grade, and then you graduate and then you go off to college. Exact same thing. They actually use the American dollars there as well. So even though they have their own money that they use, they also use the US dollars. So you don't have to exchange it when you go. You can actually use it at the grocery stores or at the gas station. So those are little things that are very, very familiar to what we have here. They're manufacturers, so they manufacture rubber. Okay, like the Tupperwares that we have, that comes from rubber. So rubber, palm oil. Do you guys know what that is? Do you know what a palm tree is? Okay, so the palm trees in Liberia actually has little nuts on them, and you can turn that into oil. Just how we have like vegetable oil, you can make palm oil from those. And then they also have gold, right? And then they have diamond, they have coffee, they have cocoa. Does anyone here go to Starbucks sometimes? Yeah. Okay. So they have cocoa, and it have iron ore. So iron ore, does anyone know what iron ore is? No? Okay, so that's iron. So you see like the cars and the heavy metal, and all of those things that we have moving around. That's, yeah, skillets, pots, you know, anything metal that we have in our kitchen, in our houses, that comes from iron ore. Liberia has that. Um Liberia is a beautiful, yes. So the free slaves are from North America. So when during slavery, when the slaves were here and then they got free, some slaves decided that didn't want to stay here anymore. They wanted to go back, but they didn't know where they came from. Okay, so what happened was James Monroe, the president at the time, actually contributed to helping these slaves go back to Africa. So they actually travel from different countries, just trying to find a place for them to settle, right? And okay, we have the history teacher back there. My father, he's going to.
Hi, Church. Let me just help her a little bit on the question you
Go
just asked.
ahead.
Yeah, that is after slavery, when slave ended in America, there was some black people who were angry, and then they wanted to return to Africa. They wanted to go back to Africa. But the thing was that they did not know which country their parents came from. See, because the free slave were all born here. See, the original slave that came, they got old and died, and so it was the offspring now wanting to go back home. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they all came from America. So some church, church organizations and the American Colonization Society, along with some church people, they put money together, and then they got a ship, and then it was free voluntarily. Hey, you want to go back home, get on the ship and go. So they got on the ship and went back to Africa. And when they went, they settled in Liberia on the island they call Providence Island. It's still there today. The very first house they enter, everything is still there today.
Amen.
Yeah, it's very historical. Even the church that they worship in, that church is still there, and we're talking this is dated back to the 1800s. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I knew that George Weah, former national football player, became the president or prime minister. Is he still in power?
Yes, he is.
George Weah.
George Weah is the
All
president.
right. Thank you very much.
Does anyone have any other questions for me?
Slaves went back. Was Liberia occupied? Did they just join with the persons who were there, or did they kind of found their own economy in that area?
There were indigenous people there,
Yeah.
yes, but they were mostly
Yeah.
away. They were spread out, and it was a very dark continent.
Like Liberia was then at that when I'm talking about that continent doesn't mean that there was no light. People were there, but the world did not know about them. They were just living there in isolation. So the slaves were educated. So when they went to Liberia, and then there were educated people among them, they started forming a government. So now they announced to the world that they were independent and sovereign country. England recognized Liberia. England was the first country to recognize Liberia. America recognized Liberia after 2 years. See, so they formed themselves in the government, and then the very first president of Liberia came from Virginia. His name was Joseph Jenkins Roberts. So that's if you went to Liberia today, you will see settlements, little towns named Lakere. So if you came from Lakere, for instance, in America, you go and you build a little place, you name it after where you came from. Yeah. So every names, names are identical here. So when the slave went, there were people living there. So if you went to Liberia today, you're gonna see two groups of people: the slave descendant and then the indigenous people. The slaves, the slave descendant, you will hear names like John Jacobs, Mary Andrews, because they carried a master's name with them. But for me, my name is Zulu. There's no Zulu here. So Zulu is indigenous. So they met us on the ground. See, so those are the two people you're gonna see in Liberia. You will see Mary Andrews, you will see John Roberts, they came from here. But if you hear the name like Finder Zulu, you say no, he is from here. He was not slave.
That's right. And even the style of houses back in the 1800s that they lived in, those were the style of houses they took to Liberia as well. That's how when you see some of the houses that were from back then, they're very identical to the houses that were here. So yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, I hope someday you guys get the chance to visit Liberia. It is a beautiful place and it's very small, but it has a big heart.
That's why the Rastafarian says, "Take me back to Liberia, the place I long to be. It is a land of liberty."
So I know you said there's iron ore in Liberia, correct? Did the Europeans exploit that during that whole time of European exploration when I know they were taking gold from Ghana, which was right next door. Did they exploit the iron ore in Liberia too? Why was it so dark? I mean, weren't they going there and taking things?
Liberia got a lot of rich minerals, So, but they were country people. So, America, uh, 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 England, and Sweden, the three countries joined together, and then they signed an agreement with the Liberian government, and then they were extracting iron ores because they did not have the capacity to finish the raw material in Liberia. So they exported them outside in America here, in UK, and they were manufacturing those things. Like America got a very large rubber plantations in Liberia, and they call Firestone. Firestone has the second largest rubber plantations. It's in Liberia. Eh, Yeah, they got a rubber farm, big rubber farm. And at the time, because they were not educated, they were just coming up. They signed an agreement that was not in the best interest of the people. Like Firestones was on lease for almost 100 and some more years, so they're still there today. You see, so that is why you know laws are standard labor laws. So in Liberia, if you go there, they pay mostly per month. If you find somebody making maybe $300 or $400, you are staff. See, so they underpay because labor is cheap, and when labor cheap, the proprietor or you make more money, you got more profit. So that's what they do.
Okay, and I'm gonna stand because if I sit down, I don't think I can get back up. So we're gonna stand. Okay. And so originally, my parents are from Congo, and then the way I'm from Tanzania, the way I ended up there is because there was a war, and the government of Tanzania allowed refugees from Congo to live in Tanzania. And so it wasn't, I'm not even from a village, it's more like a camp. And my camp is called Mutabila Camp. That's where I was born and raised. Um, so over there we eat, oh man, we eat a lot. We eat meat. You pretty much eat what you grow. So if you work, if you don't grow, you're not gonna eat. So it's either you go to the farm or you starve. Um, so this was back in the days. So whatever you farm is what you eat. And from what I remember is when you farm, there was a place where you can go and you can trade with other people. Because this is not a village; it's a small camp. You guys aren't aware of like camps. It's for refugees who were running away from the war from Congo. And so when you eat, you grow what you eat, and then you go and trade, and you can trade for meat because some people have livestock. Like from my home, I remember we had chickens and goats, and I know the kids were responsible for the chicken and goats. But man, let me tell you, you ever tried chasing a chicken? it's it's not fun, you know. And then it's worse when they ended up in your neighbor's property. Just pray they don't have a machete, because you and the chicken are gonna be in trouble. But because some people will plant in their homes, in the home area, and so I had to talk to my dad about all this information, because some things I remember, because I came here when I was 8. And he said, so in the camp, the government would give each person a little plot of area, and you could build there. You know, you can build your home and you can grow your food. And then outside of the camp, there was areas you could farm. So you can farm anything you pretty much want, anything you could farm. You know. All right. What else we got to talk about? Um, the one thing that my dad really misses and I miss, you don't pay rent in the camp. There's no rent. And so one of the things that we're very sad being in the US is you have to pay rent. And it's so expensive because he's like, I don't know why we came here to pay rent. So, because the only thing you have to worry about is your food and the clothes you wear and the lights. And everything you have to pay for. So, here. I'm gonna have you hold this because you're falling asleep. Haha, my guy, hold this for me, eh? For good. Okay. So some of the things talk about initiation ceremony. So there really isn't. I talked with people to see if there's anything initiation ceremony that would happen like here in the U.S. Not really much. The only thing that's so complicated is when you want to get married. Marriage is so complicated. You know, you guys have it easy in the US. I remember from my grandma, who she used to tell me that, you know, here you just have to have certain skills to be a good wife. You know what you had to do to get married over there? If you can't dance, you can't get married. It was so terrible. So every kid grew up knowing how to dance, because unless you want to stay lonely forever, or unless you get a really nice husband, but then he would teach you how to dance so you don't embarrass his, in-laws. Yes. I think from what I remember, man, I really wish that those two things would stay separated, but they don't. And sometimes people confuse religion and culture and combine them, and it gets very dangerous. And so there are some people who believe, the culture, and they will even integrate it in the church, which could be very, you can imagine how that would look like. But that was back in the days. I mean, the reason why most African women know how to dance, from my when I come from, is because of that reason, though, because it's just something that a husband, expects of you to, know how to dance. Um, the churches over there, a lot of the churches that I remember were either Catholic, Christian, Muslim, or you were nothing. It was just those three. So either you're Christian, you're Muslim, or you are Catholic. So those were the top three things. There was nothing in between. And if you didn't do that, you practiced witchcraft, which is very, very common. I know people don't talk about it here, but it's very, very, very common. And like I said, with your question about the religious coming in, you would think that those two things, once Christianity comes in, it will get separated, but it really doesn't. It makes sometimes you even have people in the church, like, you have a problem and God is taking forever to answer, and so you have a friend, hey, have you gone to see the so and so, he can make all your problems go away. And so there's a lot of influences, and witchcraft is not a secret. It's there, it's there. And so it's not like here where it's like a hush hush thing, or they water it down. It's there, you see it. Sometimes. And sometimes here too, it's just in secret. It's just in secret, where over there you see it and it's not in secret. And I think sometimes sometimes it's safer because you know it's there and you're aware what it is and you stay away from it. Whereas in American churches, it's so hidden that you don't know who's involved, who's not involved, and so it gets very, very shady. Okay. Um, what's the other thing? Oh, with the ceremony with marriage, they don't do that here, but When in my country, the guy has to work a lot to pay the bride price. And I think they do that in Liberia with the bride price? Very, very expensive to get married, I'm telling you. And so the guy works hard and his family contributes and they do the bride price. Have you guys ever heard of that? Else do they call it? Yeah, that. Okay. Uh-huh. Oh. That's right. Use say it's called sayings, and they will know what you're trying to say. But if you're like, common like us, we were like, I don't know what you're talking about. But it's like that's why you appoint elders who know how to talk in that certain area, in that certain tone. And they come and you set a date. The girl side of the family prepares the party. You get all the food, you get all the girls dressed up, and sometimes the girl doesn't come out. So the girl has to stay in her room until you're called. And so when the appointed elders get there, you have a discussion with the girl's parents, and they initially decide what they think their daughter is worth. Yes. And so if they're not crazy and they're not just want to have money, they tell you, what do you feel like you would like to give us? Initially saying thank you for raising your daughter. She's beautiful, she's gorgeous, she's going to be a wonderful woman, and this is me thanking you for taking the time to raise her properly. And so that's what it's supposed to be. And it's not always like that. And some people put the price really high, and some people are very generous, and people are low. In my family, my mom does not want problems. She said, "Listen, you bring how much you want, because when you take her home and you see a problem, I don't want her back." And so she does not put a price on it. Yes. This is here too in the U.S. Yeah, mine was such a mess. Man, yeah, this is still going on. Yeah, yes. I'm sorry, sir. It. Too many people were putting their 2 cents in it, and they were influencing my dad and my mom's decision. So I was like, I'm calling it off. I called off. I said, I'm leaving. I tried to do it the honest way. You didn't want to listen. So I don't know what you want me to do. So I did a I planned my wedding in 4 days, guys. It was supposed, I, 4 days. And I said, and I even called them. I was not even offended, because I was like, you ruined this for yourself, because me doing the tradition shows respect for the family. And the fact that you decided to cause all this commotion, you bringing this upon yourself. And so I was not even upset. They planned my wedding in 4 days, and I said, would you like to come to my wedding? If you can, come. If you don't, I'm still getting married by God's grace. And so that's why I'm even here in San Antonio. But that's in America. In Africa, what people usually do when things don't work out, the girl sneaks on the middle of the night. That's literally what happens. They sneak on the middle of the night and you don't see her again. And then you never, but they do. They do. Yes, the ceremony thing, yes. But when you do it the right way, it just brings peace between both families. It brings peace, and They get along together because that's the time you get to talk, with the other side of the family. For example, even here in America, I wasn't allowed to see my husband's side of the family until the bride price was paid. And so I still haven't met them yet because I'm still waiting for the drama to calm down. Yeah, I talked to them over the phone and video call, which is new. They was not there in Africa, but I still don't know what they. I don't really know physically what they look like in person. There's a lot of tradition. We could be here all day, but that's the marriage and ceremony stuff. Um, with education, there was no public schools in the camp. Either you have money to go to school or you did not have money. And so that's why sometimes you see little kids working because their parents cannot afford it. And so I was very fortunate. My dad actually had a little bakery in Africa, and so we were able to. He was able to, I guess, raise us that way because when you have a bakery, you have sugar, you have bread, you pretty much have all the necessity even for the house. Because some people, when they cook, like the porridge that she made, they will make that in the morning and they will have no sugar, no sugar for it. But the reason why my mama was a little fat is because we had too much sugar, and some people are just not fortunate. So the school was very tough. When you get to school, you're very happy because you see your friends there home and they're working so hard in the farms to help their family because they cannot afford to go there. And I don't know if they still do this now, but you get whipped badly over there in school. So either you behave or you get whipped. Me, I never liked being hit, so I was a very smart kid because I would cry. And one of the things I hope it's changed. I don't know, but if one student makes a mistake, the whole classroom pays. Those were the worst teachers to have. Imagine you being so good. In my first homework assignment, you think go study your ABCs. They say please bring a stick for yourself and make sure you bring it every day to class. So if you make a mistake, they use your own stick to hit you. And so it was very I don't know if that has changed. I don't know if that has changed. Oh. Mm.
Those of us from the Caribbean, I guess it carried over from our heritage. That when I was growing up, you got whipped in school and you got whipped at home. I remember having gotten a whipping at school and having to write a note to go to my parents, and that's the second one born. But I think I know that in Jamaica they've abolished that. But there's one state here, I forget which state, that they just passed a law that children can receive capital punishment in school again. I forget which state in the Midwest that just passed that law. But they are saying that a child cannot get whipped in front of the class. He has to go to a private room and only somebody who they know.
That sounds more dangerous because nobody can vouch for you.
I'm going to put you on that bucket.
Okay, and then what else here? Talk about education. Oh, with barriers. I actually really like this part of the camp, and they actually continue to practice it here. It's when someone passes away, I think it's a very sad thing to see in the U.S. how when you lose a loved one, you suffer alone, with your family. But with the African culture, it's a community barrier. Everybody comes, even your enemies will come to the barrier and they support you financially, with all the necessary things you need. And everybody pitches in, even if they have little, they still give. And but I think it's a beautiful thing, and I'm happy they continue to do that here in the U.S. because I can't imagine losing a family and going through it alone. It's just so sad. I continue. Oh, okay. And then the other thing that's nice and different about the camp, because it was that where we lived, the government gave it to us. You didn't have to pay for a barrier. The barrier was free. And so I know here, barrier is very expensive. You don't even want to lose a loved one. It's just expensive, and especially if you're not fortunate, you don't have insurance and things like that. Okay. Money wise, kind of touched on this, where you grow. I'm talking about the camp. I'm not talking about the city, the village. I don't know that life. I just know where I came from. And so with money wise, it really was about If you had a skill, you used it. If you sewed, you sew and you sell. If you could grow certain crops that other people have a hard time, you use that and you make money. And so, like my aunt, she cooked very well, so she had a little shop, and her shop went well because she could cook certain food that nobody else had time to cook, and but everybody always went to her. And my dad baked, and so that's how you lived, and that's how you made money. And then if you were a kid and you worked really hard, your goal was to get out of the camp and go to the city so you can make more money to make your family proud, and so you could have a better life, obviously, you know. Let's see. The way they dress. So this I'm wearing is called imbutano. This is something they will wear for like weddings and for like special events. And sometimes they have like more colorful ones, and way more expensive one for like the bride, the groom's family, and things like that. Um, they also have ones for men, and I don't have all the gadgets. And then the other things they wear, it's African garments, like what Madame over there is wearing. I don't know your name. Wanye, yes. So they have all those kind of clothes. And the rule of thumb, this was, when I was there, I don't know how to change. You always had to wear respectfully. It doesn't matter what you did in your private areas, when nobody was looking, everybody wore respectfully. Nobody, I've never seen a single person that wore a skirt above their knee until I came to the US. And so I don't know how that has changed, but that was the custom there. And I still don't know, but I know I was never allowed to wear pants as a female. I started wearing them here in the U.S., but I know with the cultural changing, now people do. When we have people going to visit, customs, mixing and stuff like that. Um, let's see. For industry, I asked my dad about the industry, but he said, it'd be very impossible to actually have a huge farm industry where we came from because electricity is a problem. And so you need a lot of, power and electricity to have a big industry. So like I mentioned, people will have like little things that didn't require so much electricity. Because when you see the industries here, like factories, they use a lot of power, to generate, and that's just not something that was accessible where I came from. And also, I don't know if you guys, but I'm a Hutu, and so I think there's a Hutu and Tutsis and other tribes that I don't know of. And so this young man is holding. Hopefully, help you stay awake. This is called Igiseke. I wish I knew what it's made out of because I actually had to ask my husband. My father-in-law brought it with him back from Africa. This is the smallest one. There's a big one, and you pretty much they just carry. I could carry it on my head and walk around everywhere. And I didn't mention, but with water, you had to go. They had wells that you had to go and oh yeah, I could walk around. They had wells. You had to go and draw water every day, and so don't think as a little kid you stay home play video games on your phone. Let me tell you, your head is gonna be so strong and stiff like an iron rod by the time you learn to walk because even the little kids be carrying buckets of water to help the family. So this specific one, they use it for a lot of like important events, like when we talked about the the bridal price. Yeah, the big containers. Sometimes they will have money in it, and then you have like girls wearing like similar outfits, and they will be walking in rows and delivering the gifts. So you can have money, all the gifts, like sacks of whatever it was, potatoes, yams, and then you deliver to the girl's family in it. And then the common thing, if they have this in the home, the common thing they have in them is, you guys know fufu, or it's also called ugali, or I don't know how other places call them. What is it called? Uh-huh. And so you want to use the firm ones, and people will use the bigger ones to put the food in here, especially if you had guests. When you have guests, you want to put your best things out. And I didn't know, but you can actually clean this thing with soap and water. And I was like, how do you do that? But nothing happens to them. And so, anybody has questions? Yes.
I just wanted to
Mm. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Not is I think it's different where you come. I know some countries where it's the girl who pays the price, but in my country, it's the guy who pays. Oh. Oh. That's what we call bride price. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so there's a difference between the woman's side having to have money to pay the husband to get married,
Mm.
and the man's side having to pay the woman's side.
Okay. No, it really, like I said, it comes down to the family. Like if you come from a pro home, like I said with my parents, if like my mom, she, if it had worked out, she had always told me that I'm gonna make sure I tell you, you guys gonna come in here, do the whole thing. But in the day, I rather have you guys be able to have enough money to build your family and your home. And once you have a little something, come back to us and give us a little. That's when you have understanding parents. And yes, that's why I was saying when it's between just the two families, it works out very nicely because you guys come to an agreement. You give what you can, not until you're broke, if that makes any sense. Yes.
And does that mean that people over there they don't get divorced often?
I think divorce is different here than in other countries because I don't know how to, because what I remember seeing, if like, that's why you never want to charge for a high bridal price, let me tell you, because you don't know how your daughter or how your son is going to behave in the marriage. You don't want nothing to come back to you. No, there is no refund. That's the thing about there is no such thing as a refund. You can be married for 2 days. There's no such thing as a refund. And so when for us, what I've noticed is usually when you have situation in your home, you and your husband sit down and work it out, right? And if you can't work it out, you've tried everything, you pray about it, and that doesn't work out. You have elders, people who you trust. Don't just bring any elder. People you trust, and they come to your home and they talk to you. They try to counsel you, and most of the times it actually ends there. And that is if you have a cultured home who they don't want to just give up on their marriage. They try. And when things don't work out because you tried everything, the guy sends the girl back. He's like, please, here, take your daughter back, thank you very much. And that's what I see. And then sometimes they go back together and sometimes they don't. But there's no form of like, when, for example, I'll give you an example. Don't tell my mother. With her situation, both my parents were very poor, and my mom just got so sick of her life, and so she did, I guess it could be called the forbidden way to get married. She left with her friends, and she told her mom, but not her dad, because my dad is those people who keeps a machete with him. So she told my mom, that my grandma, that hey, I'm going out, but I won't be coming back. And when you hear that sentence from a girl, you know what it means. There's nothing you can say or do that's going to change their mind. And so she left, and then she was gone for, a few days. And once you're with a man for a couple of days, you're considered married, if that makes sense. He has made you his wife. And then later on, you still have to make it right, though, because if you want peace, you still have to make it right. Later on, it's the guy's responsibility and his side of the family to bring the girl back to the family to make it right. So you still have to bring some gifts and have some, elders with you to, tell them like, we're sorry what we did, but we love each other, and here's a gift. And then from there, it's resolved. It kind of breaks the forbidden part of what you already done because you fixed it. Yeah.
Can you remind us what country is that?
Tanzania.
Okay.
Mhm.
Each other.
Like I have no geographical knowledge. Somebody else should answer that.
Okay.
Girl, I don't know.
Yeah, Tanzania is in East Tanzania is in East Africa, right? Yeah, East Africa, and we yeah, Tanzania is East
Yes.
Africa, and we like you can see the west coast of that's this is
East
an
West.
African map right there, and then all
Oh,
the
there
way
it is, Tanzania.
yeah, all the way in the Horn area where you see the little curve, it's Liberia. We by the Atlantic Ocean. Tanzania is a landlocked country. Don't have a so Tanzania is in the middle right there. And and regarding the marriage, it's kind of a little different from countries.
It's different
It's
from
different.
every country, every tribe. Everybody does it differently.
Yeah, it's different. Like
Mhm.
me, I'm from Liberia, and I mean, is when you about to pay a bride price for the woman, the standard price is $40. That's just the standard. But as a man, and having respect for the woman, the parents, so when you go in there, you're not just gonna just put $40 in your pocket and say, "Hey, this is bride price."
Mm.
You gotta do extra stuff, like clothing. Like recently, one of my daughters got married in Colorado, and then the husband close me. He bought this for me. He didn't just bring $40 and give it to us.
Hmm.
You see?
They
So,
expect
and,
more.
gotta give clothes to to the
Mhm.
parents of the girl, people who contributed to her life, to get her to who she is before you can marry her. You gotta show some level of appreciation,
Mhm.
do some other thing, cook good food, everybody party together. It is the ceremonial stuff. Brian did that, he know the whole thing. Yeah. See? So then on the contrary, that is the law. That is the $40. If the woman divorced the man, then the parents of the girl have to pay back the $40.
Oh no, there's no refund where I come from.
But yeah, for us, that's the law.
Mhm.
But now, $40 is nothing. So sometimes you say, hey, you go, no problem.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so I had that's because we heard a lot of stories so far of the diary and the process. So for my process, I was in the military and my wife was in college and we met. And so I knew from the very beginning that if we were to get serious, that I would have to, it was a process. I'm American, so um, I was not familiar with the diary at all.
Mm.
My wife explained pretty much you have to talk to my parents. So my wife's dad and mom, then my mom has her older brother. So I had to go to her parents first. And when I went to my in-laws' house, the very first time I went there, my wife like panicked. Walking up the stairs, we got to the front of the door. She was like, "No, let's just turn around. Let's just." And I'm like, "We already traveled an hour and a half now." And she was serious, really serious. She almost was panicking. She was like, "No, we just turn around right now." And then I got scared because I said, if she's this scared, what am I going into? So I was the only person she ever brought home. So when I got in the house, very first step I get in, she just beeline. She just leaves me. So I'm just left to introduce myself to everybody. And I didn't see her again until the end of the celebration. So, but that was when my mother's mother was still alive. So it was my mom, all of her sisters, and my dad. He came home. So they literally sat me on the couch, and they all put couches right in front of me, and they grilled me, and um, they asked me a bunch of questions. What are my intentions with her? Um, Everything. So, and I was in the military, so I was used to being under pressure, but that was different. So, and her grandmother spoke in the dialect, so they would translate to her. So every time I say something, they translate to her, and she would be just she would look at them and they would talk to her, and then she'll look at me. I'd be like, oh man, I'm not doing good. So and so then my father-in-law, he came home, and he didn't really say much to me. Kind of he just was kind of walked like, oh, how you doing? What's your name? And that was pretty much it. And then she went to her dad and was talking to him, and I was just on the outside looking in. But so that was like the first meeting, and then I think sometime after that, I spoke with my father-in-law again just to check in, just as a sign of respect. And then when when we got serious, instead, I knew for sure I wanted to marry her. So I then went back and I brought gifts to my father-in-law and my mother-in-law. I brought gifts to them, and I asked for permission to marry her. And then at that point, they told me, okay, now you got to go to my mom's brother, who was the oldest male on their side of the family, and I got to go to him now. So when I went to him, and mind you, this is like an hour and a half to 2 hour and a half trip from where I was at. So I would go to him, and I explained to him what I wanted. I wanted to marry her, and he had his own set of rules. So I had to bring two of my best friends that could speak on my behalf because I was not in my home state due to the military. So I had to bring two of my best friends, hour and a half, up there to meet him, and then they had to talk to him on my behalf. So we did that. We did that for a while, and of course I'm still talking to my father-in-law and my mother-in-law for a while. And these are hour and a half trips, and I was a private, so I wasn't making a lot of money. So this was definitely an investment, but so eventually I got permission from the family, from my dad, my mom, and from my uncle, her uncle, and so we planned it out for one day after church. We would all meet just for dinner, and then I would propose to her in front of everybody. Because at this point, she don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing all this in secret. So she was, oblivious. So went to church one day, and then we met after church for potluck. Then I proposed in front of the family. Then that was it. So that's my side of it, of what I had to do.
It's different, yeah, and it all comes down to the family. Like each family has different expectations, and so what the family agrees to, that's that's what happens, you know. So it all comes down to the family. Um, it's comfortable there. Yes. Yeah. Mhm. There you go, ma'am.
Hey, good afternoon, church. I will stand up here because I have to use this. So, my name is Naski Kani, and although I was born in Australia, I come from Malawi because both my parents also came from Malawi. And Malawi is a landlocked country in southeastern Africa. It is a narrow strip of land, and it borders with Zambia to the northeast, Tanzania to the northwest, so we're neighbors, and Mozambique to the south, southeast, and southwest. And it has a lake that runs along it that it shares with Tanzania. It has 10 major tribes, namely the Chewa, the Manganja, the Lomwe, Yawo, Tumbuka, Sena, Donga, Ngoni, Ngonde, and the Lambia. The Chewa tribe is the largest tribe in Malawi, and it is located in the central region of the country. We have intertribal marriages, so my brother and I are Tumbuka, and my mother is Chewa. So my dad was Tumboka, and they are patrilineal, so automatically I am Tumboka as well. And each tribe has its own language. However, the official language of the country is English, and the other language used to mainly communicate, no matter the tribe, is called Chichewa. Yes, Chichewa. So the staple food in Malawi is called insima, and it is a thick porridge made from maize flour and water. I'm sure some of you saw it at potluck. And we eat that with vegetables, fish, beans, or meat for both dinner and lunch. We have vegetables that are cooked traditionally, like the pumpkin leaves, and we call that nkwani, and cassava leaves with groundnut powder called chiguada. That was at potluck as well. And then for breakfast, people can eat porridge, and that's the picture on the right, which is made with the same maize meal with water as well, and they can eat it with sugar if they want. And it's just not made as thick as ensima. So for initiation ceremonies for the coming of age, the Chewa tribe calls it Chinamwali. And it's basically a group of women advising younger women how to behave responsibly. And they literally tell us not to play with boys and, respect adults, and how to behave when visitors come. And, when older visitors come, we just greet them and leave, especially when they're older. And then they also teach us how to do household chores. And then with witch doctors, the guy on the left has his utensils there. And I guess the one on the right is one of the famous witch doctors that's located near the lake. And witch doctors and traditional healers are very different. The traditional healers help people with their ailments using herbs. And then with the witch doctors, some go to the witch doctors to find out who has bewitched them or go and bewitch other people, and some go there to get rich, but funny enough, the witch doctors are not rich themselves. I wonder how that works. Um, and then others go to the witch doctors to cast love spells and have people fall in love with them. And then, we've heard so many stories about these things. For example, we've heard of witches that travel at night in a specific basket to go to other countries. And then when dawn is about to come, and they just come back, basically. But it's rumored that these witches cannot attack people outside of their family, so it's still safe to visit if you want, you know. The next slide is going to show a video of the house my mother built in the village, and that's where we stay when we go to the village and not the city. Then if it's gonna play. It's not. Oh. Okay. Well, that's the house that we have in the village. And then we have boreholes all over the village, and that's where we get our clean water to eat, drink, cook, and bathe. The picture on the left is me getting water from the borehole, and the picture on the right is me and my cousins coming from the borehole, and we carry the buckets of water on our head. And when you go to the cities, those are some of the houses you'd find in the affluent areas, and that's called Area 43, and that's located in the capital city of Malawi called Lilongwe. And that is the church that we go to. It's in the capital city as well, in Area 47. The picture on the right is some of the Dorcas women or women's ministries. We don't have a difference between those, the same thing. And then, Mom, was that Women's Ministers Day? I don't know, but it's basically some Sabbaths are just, I guess, get-togethers, Dorcas women, and go for outreach, and sorry. Yes, that's the uniform that the Dorcas women wear in the north and central regions. In the south, it's a bit different. It's the same white hat, white blouse, but then it's a maroon skirt.
I'll interrupt that. Um, she left in 2012, so she doesn't know the changes. What happened was the women in the south had maroon skirt and white blouse. The northern region and central region had this uniform. So none of them wanted to change. So that one uniform is worn. So what happened was when someone was made president, they just said each woman should have two uniforms. So each woman is with a blue uniform and a maroon uniform. So they tell each other, this time we're going to wear the maroon one, or we are going to wear the blue one. That only shows that compromises in the church sometimes are hard to come by. Amen.
Yeah, I got a question, and that question I think maybe for the pastor. Yeah, yeah. In Africa, I usually hear Dorcas. That is the women ministry. But in America, churches here, I don't hear Dorcas. I don't hear the word Dorcas. So, is it not existing in the American church or what?
Yes, exactly. Yep. If we kept it at Dorcas, you would see the difference.
I noticed up there that instead of, you call it worship conditions. I just wonder why.
Well, that was just a subsection of the paper I was supposed to go through. All right, so that is a picture of President Ted Wilson and his wife Nancy's visit to Malawi in 2020. And that is the Bingu National Stadium in the capital city as well. That is about 40,000 people, Adventists rather, who have traveled from the north, south, and central regions just to be there. And then on the left is the picture of the master guides marching. On the right is Pathfinders. So starting from an early age, we learn drills and marching commands. And then we just do that, I guess, whenever the leaders want us to. And then we have cars and buses, but then some people use bicycles as public transportation, and we call that ikabaza. So the picture on the right shows ikabaza spreading the gospel of the three angels with the, I guess, with his bicycle. And then I'm not sure if this video is going to play, but that was supposed to be a video of the senior youth choir that is from the church that we go to. And those are some of the people that I grew up with. Well, if the video played, it was just a song talking about opening up our hearts and letting Jesus in. Even if we have worldly problems, we shouldn't doubt Jesus and he will help us. Huh? It could play. So that is the secondary or high school that I went to. And our education system starts with nursery, then primary school, secondary school, and then university. And when you're in high school, in your last year, you have to write the Malawi School Certificate of Education exams just to be able to proceed to university if you pass. And we do have government schools as well, but private schools like the one I went to, called Bambino Private School, has the International General Certificate of Secondary Education curriculum that was developed by the University of Cambridge. And they also have examinations in the last year to be able to proceed to university. And in high school, we can also learn other languages like French, German, or Latin if we choose to. And that is the university that my mom used to teach at, called Kamuzu College of Nursing. It was under the University of Malawi. And under the University of Malawi, we also have Chancellor College and the Polytechnic, Bunda College as well, and College of Medicine. She knows it all. Sorry? English. Yes, it's the official language of the country. And then when it comes to burials, family and friends gather immediately to mourn. And depending on your faith, there's preaching, and then we bury the dead. That's a picture of my grandma's funeral on the left, and that's some of the family that was there in 2019. And some tribes, like the Ngoni and Tumbuka, also have traditional dances at funerals to celebrate the life of the deceased. Again, the video probably won't play, but they do wear the, I guess, traditional attire and dance all night. Yes, all night. And then after that, when they get to the graveyard, I guess that's when the preaching is, and then they bury the dead. It doesn't matter where you come from. I guess my uncle was Ngoni by tribe. He was also elder in the church, CCAB church, so they danced for him as well. And then there was preaching at the graveyard. Well, there's no volume, but that's what happened. No, the women are in the circle as well. Then usually after a year, when the ground has settled, we have a tombstone unveiling called Jiliza, and family and friends gather as well for this. The tombstone on the left is my grandma's. The one in the middle is my grandfather's, and on the right is my mom and some of her brothers around grandma's tombstone. And that's in the village. And for both occasions, women just gather in the kitchen and cook for everybody in attendance for both the funeral and tombstone unveiling ceremonies. And all the villagers come. They don't have to be invited. They just show up. Yeah. Okay, and well, there we go. And those are some of my cousins cooking. When it comes to money, the Malawi currency is called the Malawi Kwacha. We have the coins on the right, and on the left is the paper money. And when it comes to dress, we wear both the Western and traditional clothing. But with the traditional clothing, we just buy the African material, choose a design of our liking, and have a tailor sew it for us. Basically, what I'm wearing was done the same way, and what my mom was wearing as well. And for industry, Malawi relies heavily on tea, sugar, coffee, and tobacco exportation, which makes up more than 90% of Malawi's foreign income. The rest of the country's income comes from foreign aid from countries like the UK, China, and the US. And the pictures on the top are examples of the tea, sugar, and tobacco fields. At the bottom are the finished products that are ready for exportation. Then there's no sound for that, but it's a video showing Malawi's places, basically. Okay, any questions? Sorry? It's quite small. It's like a narrow strip of land, basically. It's landlocked. Adventist. I've never seen that at an Adventist funeral, but do they do that?
I haven't seen that, but probably if if they go to the north, the night before burial, I think Adventists just sing like hymns and so on. I've never seen an Adventist funeral where they might probably sing around the coffin, but I've never seen dancing.
Which country colonized? Was it ever colonized?
No, it was British colonized. Hmm.
Okay, so what would you say is what you're most proud of, your country, your people, the culture that you want to share with the world? Like, what would it be?
Malawi is called the warm heart of Africa because, according to, I guess, tourists, we're the kindest people. It's a relatively safe place, and we're glad to have everybody. Doesn't matter where you come from. We're glad to include you in our festivities and whatever else you'd like to do. We're open to everybody.
We are warm people and would like to share our dress below the knees, even in church. That's what we would like to share.
So, two-part question. How many languages do you speak, and can we hear samplings, languages / dialect?
Okay, so I grew up in Zimbabwe as well. So I speak Shona and Ndebele. And then from Malawi, I speak Chichewa. I'm Tumbuka, but I cannot speak Tumbuka. In Chichewa, we say, "How are you?" Mulibwanji. And then someone answers, "Ndili bwino kai noyo." And then Shona, Moroi, Mogadi, and then Ndebele, it's Dumela.
Dumela, I think, is Botswana, right?
No, it's Zulu.
Oh,
Kunjan.
Punjan, yeah.
And then you answer Ngiapila. When unjan, it's fine, thank you, how are you? So I speak with English in total 4 languages. A little French, but quakey. Any other questions? I mean, it was gonna play. I can't sing, so. You wanna sing? I don't know one of the hymns.
That's a surprise. That's pulling the rug under our feet.
So I apologize for my voice in advance.
But then which one?
There we go. Saved by the Bell. Yeah.
Were you stationed at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987?
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. And I know that it's long, the time is far spent, and our kids are really good for sticking by, those of you who've been here. And I really appreciate that. Just a quick question to see if you were paying attention all this time. What were the 3 countries that we talked about today?
Liberia.
Which was the other one?
Malawi. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Malawi.
Yeah, Malawi.
Tanzania, come on. You guys did okay though. It's all right. Now Sister Corin wants me to play this African folklore story, but I think we'll do it another time. Okay, because I know you guys are ready to go and it's already 4 o'clock. But we had such a beautiful time. I'm sorry? Huh? No, it's on here. I don't know how I'm gonna put it, but what she was doing before. Okay. Can you hear that? Yeah. I don't know. Hold on just a moment. I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, hello everyone. While we're waiting on this, I have a question for everyone who's from Africa. I did a DNA test and most of my people are from Cameroon. Has anyone ever been there? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It is part of the 16 countries in West Africa, Cameroon. Yeah. And hey, Grandpa is talking. Yeah. And Cameroon is not really stable right now. You know, they have a civil war going on, there, and, yeah. But they have some good soccer stars.
Ready?
I will find out, and then when we upload the video and everything, I'll put a link to say if you can or cannot be.
Yeah. Okay.
Ah,
Thank you very
now
much.
every African young man's favorite. Well, no, every African young child, sorry. Every African young child, if you ever had a grandma, and this is the entire continent of Africa, grandmothers had so many stories, mostly about your your parents, because parents were naughty once upon a time, but it was the stories that we used to sit around and listen to, and not around a campfire in a lounge with a big TV in the background and so forth. So don't picture a bonfire or anything like that. But our grandma used to come and visit us in the city a lot of the time. And every time she came, we knew there was a story, and one of the stories, one of the requirements is for you to be able to tell a African folk story, right? Not, there's this guy called William Wright. He built a plane and it flew. Nah, not that. An African folk story. And most of them are based around animals to bring out the moral of the story. But I'll tell you one, and hopefully you'll get the moral of the story. Now, many of you might know this story, so just bear with me, and hopefully you haven't heard the African meaning that we were taught. Right, there was an old farmer who picked up an eagle egg in his walks. So he put it with his chickens, and the eggs soon hatched. Now the young eagle grew up with all the other chickens, and whatever they did, every single thing the eagle did too. He thought he was a chicken just like them. Now, since chickens couldn't fly or could just fly a short distance, that's what the eagle learned as well. He learned just to fly a short distance, and that was enough. Because remember why? He thought he was just a chicken. He thought that was what he was supposed to do, so that's what he could do. And that's what he thought he could do. That's only pretty much what he thought he could do. As a consequence to that, that's all he was able to do. Right? Remember, living with chickens, thinking like chickens, then you think, I'm a chicken. One day, he saw an eagle soaring high up in the sky. And he was very impressed. So he asked, who's that? And he looked at the hens around him, and the hens just replied, oh, that's just an eagle. That is the king of all birds. He belongs to the sky, and we belong to the earth. We are just chickens, they said. So the eagle lived and died as a chicken, for that's what he thought he was. Helderberg, if you could read that verse.
Okay. Let me just bring it up. And that is 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 reads, but you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
All right, now from that story that we just heard, no matter what kind of situation you were brought up in, no matter what limitations you were told you could have, no matter how much somebody says this is all you can do, right? It's time to get rid of that, right? Now, you don't want to live thinking that you're a chicken when you know you're an eagle. Christ tells us that, Paul tells us that we are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, right? We are kings and queens. So as a king and a queen, we need to act and live like it, right? We need to know that we have God on our side all the time, which makes our potential limitless, absolutely limitless. That's why we know we can soar as high as an eagle and not even worry about anything. We're supposed to be all that we are meant to be, a part of that royal priesthood. Now we are pathfinders, and we are soldiers of Jesus Christ. Nothing can surpass that, right? So the moral of that story was, just because somebody tells you that's all you can do, it doesn't mean that's all you can do. With Jesus on your side, you can do absolutely everything. So the eagle is meant to soar, just like the Pathfinder is meant to lead. Then we'll just close with just a few things that I found out about the many tribes that we have. We'll start with the Maasai. The Maasai, if you see a young man or a young lady wearing that around their neck, it means they are about to get married or have just gotten married. So that's just a wedding necklace. And then the Zulu warriors, you see, Zulu warrior always had three things: a shield, knob carry, which is that little round thing on there. That is it's actually a stick, comes down there, and it's always got that little round shape. And then always a spear as well. Right? That's the Zulu warrior shield. You have the Xhosa tribe, that is a bag. You can keep stuff in there. Most of the men that used to have this back in the day, it would be tobacco bag, you know, or some sort of nuts that they would keep in there. And that is part of the traditional wear. You know, it's just like a cape that comes across there. But all these these are beads. So you can make them into a plain color like you can see on here, or you can make them into as many colors as you can. I don't know how they paint their beads or how they find them, but once it's all done, it is absolutely beautiful. We have the Shona tribe from Zimbabwe. They are stone sculpturists. They're very good at making, as you can see, a face of a man, I suppose. Well, yeah, he's got a beard, so yeah, it's a man. But interestingly enough, the Shona tribe, they're musicians as well. You know, you get instruments like the marimba or the mbira, and it's just a joy to play. It's an African piano. That's what I'll call it. And then the Akoli tribe, they use these as musical rattles. Now, how they get the stones or the seeds inside this, I'm not really sure. I'm still trying to find out how it's actually made, but only the village elders made these because there's some mystery behind it, and it never breaks. Once it's made, it's made. And then you have the Amara, who have a cowrie shell basket. So the bigger the basket, the more stuff you can store in there. But interestingly, they are not a coastal tribe, but most of their designs have got shells. So that's interesting. I wonder where they get them, because I looked around that area. There are not that many rivers or, I'm sorry, dams or anything like that. So another mystery. One that I had to show you was the fuller ceremonial hat. Now, the fuller ceremonial hat, anyone can make it, but the feathers have to come from a specific bird. So I'll let you try and find out where it is. And trust me, Google's not going to tell you, but you can find it. Have at it. So it's a ceremonial hat. And then the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, they make wooden face masks, and they can literally make. They can either make the face mask look like you, or can be something very different. But all of them have a certain kind of headwear, or rather hair, that signifies the ceremony that you'll be going to. So it's quite interesting. And then the Himba tribe. The Himba tribe are known for their intricate finger work, right? If you look closely, those are metal beads, and that's gold, and that's a shell. Now, how all that comes together is wow. And they've got some leather straps on there. I wish I could have taken a bigger image so you can see. But once made, it won't break. It won't lose its shape. It won't change into a different color or anything. It literally stays as beautiful as it was made the first day. Obviously, you got to look after it. Then now you'll have the Oromo tribe, and that is a battle shield or fighting shield. I couldn't see the picture behind to see what kind of straps or how you hold it, but it's quite big. And you can find this one at the British Museum of Arts, Natural Arts and History. Another tribe that I looked at was the Tuareg from Southern Sudan, and those are 10 poles. So you see, whenever we go camping, we use those little metal ones. Imagine if you had one of these, your tent would be like, you'd pass inspection easy. Easy. And they make their own tent poles, and each family has its own design. That's why you see many different kinds of designs. So that's just a few things on African tribes, the Yoruba tribe of Nigeria. And I lost my notes. I was going to tell you how long it takes to make that crown. and it's a ceremonial crown. It's quite beautiful. If you go on YouTube, I'm sure you can find a video where you can see how it's made from beginning to end and how all the beads come together. And that's pretty much it on the African law honor.
Thank you so much, AV team, and everybody for staying to help us, our Pathfinders, and support our Pathfinders in this African lore honor. And as you know, today's Pathfinder Day. It's World Pathfinder Day, and this is a good time for us to celebrate this. So, without any further ado, we won't keep you any longer. I'd invite you to stand as we have prayer, and I'll ask Brother Theo if you could close us off in prayer.
Let's bow our heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this beautiful Sabbath day. We thank you for all of the information that we have received. Father, we thank you for allowing us to learn more about Africa and where a lot of people came from. We pray, Father, that one day we all get to visit there if it's in your will. And Father, we pray that you continue to bless and keep us all. Be with all of our family and friends that are represented here. And we give you all the praise, honor, and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.